Karibuni sana to Kenyan Design Conversations. If you have been keen enough, you will notice that in Kenya there's a very huge skill set gap between good designers and average designers. Let me tell you, Maina, I have decided to address this by bringing you wale wazito wa industry to help us with dilemmas we budding designers have about upskilling. Dilemma yako ni kupata job, listening interviews, stories and mentorship. I got you. My name is Chantal Chendereta and I'll be your host. Sending so much love and gratitude to you, dear listener. Alidi can only hope utaenjoy conversations zetu na uzipate informative, entertaining and inspiring. Well, hello Kenyan designers. Karibuni sana to Kenyan Design Conversations episode 2. And before I dive in today, I have a guest with me. So this particular lady helped me with my first episode. I remember I had asked a couple of you to tell me the design mistakes you made when starting and what you would do differently. And she had some really, really heavy hitters. So I thought, why not bring her to a guest and share with us more of this heavy knowledge? So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing, can I get some drum rolls? Introducing Stephanie Kabi. Steph, karibu sana. How are you? How has your week been?
Thank you. Thank you for the intro, Chantel. It's been good. I've been waiting excitedly for this podcast to happen finally.
Tusiseme.
Long time coming. Nimekuwa nikingoja.
Ni sawa. Ndio hii imearrive. Okay, so I have only said your name. People have only heard your voice. So ujiintroduce watu wakutambue.
Okay. I'm a product designer. Pia nafanya projects za e-commerce. So I'm also an e-commerce designer. I have worked with private clients, with teams, with corporates, and I'm usually happy about results when I see everyone who I work with gets exactly what they need, including customers, because that's who we are designing for at the end of the day. Yeah, that's a short intro about me.
Yes, and you are being very modest. Ni sawa tu. Mi ningekuwa wewe ningeringa wacha. Okay, sawa. So leo, today, kwa nini ni ngumu kutafuta kazi Kenya? Jamani. Leo tunaongelea career growth. Eka uko na headache kama mimi, you really need this episode. Kwanza experiences zangu hazijakuwa poa, honestly. But naweza sema because I am still a growing designer, maybe my designs were not so great, maybe. But it's really hard to. Because I remember, you see, nakonga na allergy za baridi. Stuff wacha nikwambie story. So nakonga na allergy za baridi. And I don't even live in Nairobi. But there's this particular company who called me for an interview. So mi nimeenda, but juu ya allergy zangu I'm heavily dressed. Imagine msichana ameenda interview na sweatpants, hoodie. I do not know what first impression I gave them, but mazemi, my health bana, my health. Either way, it was just like a snippet of that. I don't know. Walienda po wameniambia that I don't know how to articulate my sijui kujitetea, like sijui ati hiyo ndo kitu ilimeuza. So anyway, nilikubali, but do you know these people I had asked if naweza fanya interview penye nilikuwa remotely na wakakata. I wish they knew the hustle. I do not. They kept I made sure I asked them, and they told me their culture is a physical setup, so they can't really do it. And they knew where I was. That was the saddest part. Imagine if ningefanya remotely, how much I would have saved myself. But it's okay. I'm not trying to complete. It was an experience in itself. But you tell me, what ushaikuwa na experiences weird kazi?
Yeah, to be honest, ndo nikifanya analysis because during COVID definitely kulikuwa na companies mingi walikuwa na hire remotely. Then that lasted until let's say 2022, mid 2022, end of 2022, then 2023 you start hearing companies saying actually we want our teams to come back to the office, things like that. So And also, while I've been talking to, let's say, multiple recruiters who DM me on LinkedIn, I usually ask them as one of the first questions, like, is your setup in office, hybrid, am I remote? Because that's a big, what do you call it? Pointer towards the culture. So, you may realize at the end of the day, it's not like black and white, because some recruiters watakughost either sabu hawajui whether, I mean, how the setup is. Kuna wengine wanajua definitely it's in office, so kama unauliza hiyo swali, you're not for them.
Oh no.
Um, but at the end of the day, you onyesha how the company culture is like. Like, does it foster everyone to have like freedom of where to do their best work, so that the day that you feel you'll be able to do your best work at the office wenda. There's sometimes when you need to be at the office, let's say for doing things like user interviews or having high, what do you call it, high stake meetings. Some of them usually are done best at the office. There's sometimes that it's just better to work from home, especially for the thinking days. So hakuna black and white hapo. You just need to interpret it with how the company communicates it. Yeah, so that has been one of my weird experiences. For the other ones, I guess in terms of pointing towards venye ni ngumu kupata job siku hizi, unapata kuna companies mob sahii wanafanya like 6 rounds of interviews, or wanafanya like a psychometric assessment together with like a technical assignment that especially if you don't have a lot of information regarding it, inakuwa tricky. Then you end up wondering why exactly you signed up for this. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's for corporate. I have a lot more stories still because nifanya kazi freelance, but we can talk about that later at another time.
Yo, hey, you have no idea how much I want to hear that. But first, when we're still talking about the culture, this I need to read. I actually, because she's my friend, I asked her if I could put this on the podcast. She was supposed to be here with us today, but unfortunately, she didn't make it. Let me just read this to you. I am not so sure if you've come across it. It was on Twitter. Let me find it just real quick. So she said she was replying to someone who was saying applying for jobs can really drain you, wishing anybody on the same journey a positive outcome. And she replied, where I'm drained, I'm still thinking about this guy who interviewed me and told me I am a nobody. I really hope his subordinates are doing okay because the flags are quite red. And so kuna wase walijibu and she was okay, see, because ni screenshots nasoma kuna kitu haiko hapo, but then she says, I realized I may be hungry, but I can manage my hunger. So I was curious and I asked her for more screenshots, and she said, kuna screenshot, kuna mse aliuliza, how did that conversation even start? And she said, it was a phone call. A friend had referred her, asked if she could go to the gym, if she can walk from home to their office, how old she was, that she was a nobody and she should work for them to get a name for herself. That and more. Ati, he didn't even ask for her LinkedIn or portfolio. Mind you, this is for your UX role. Now, Epo, how do we get here?
Oh wow.
This is in any responses. I think I'll skip the responses. Yeah, so it's just if there was a designer in a particular group, and I said I'm nilimdia, nikamwambia mini designer. So akauliza if I have worked with backend devs, and yeah, I have an experience with working with backend devs. So I said yes, I do, and I stated instances where I had, and then we went on a phone call for like 1 hour. This guy is rambling about his company, the groups of companies he has, or he's about to open or something. This whole time amemaliza na venye mi nijue nimeskip internship, and I wish I knew that was
Yeah.
a plug. Nimeskip internship, mi hata nisimind. Ajaangalia portfolio yangu, resume yangu, because wait, what? Aya, si tukakubaliana, but this one hour and sijui how many minutes nishapata kazi, lakini sijui nalipwa ngapi. Sijui hata kazi like nafanya kabisa, it has not been clear. Mind you, these are 60 plus minutes of my time, na si mchana, ni usiku. And then as we go on interacting with each other, now he wants me to do roles that are not even design. Mara sijui create a scope of nini sijui. Namwambia wewe ndio unajua project yako, wewe ndio unaweza create. We just keep going back and forth. Mi mazee nilimwambia cheki, mi niko na commitment more of Mr. Manage. Bye.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
at least I'm glad I got to feel like nearly trust instincts zangu to know that that wasn't right. Otherwise, I think
Mhm.
I'd some kind of loop right now and then get quite depressed. What can you say
Yeah.
about this kind of things?
I think it's let me not call it a rite of passage because it's something I've observed happens a lot with designers, especially if designers are, let's say, if come straight out of uni or you're early in your career, or let's say if you've gone to a boot camp, a design boot camp after one that change your career from dev or marketing. Now you want to be a designer and you're looking for your
Mhm.
first, experiences to create a foundation. It's very easy to run into this kind of let me say business owners who may be looking for a perfect talent that fits their team wholeheartedly internally, but the way in which they communicate it is not the best. So I've observed also it kind of happens a lot with startups that are in tech, especially when you find that the startup is running on a lean team, or let's say has been looking for funding, and you've just started scaling up, like how many team members are in your team. And at that point unajua usually hata JD haikuangi solid, like it's more or less work as you go, learn as you go, see how it works out, see what you like about the job, what you don't like, communicate with that your supervisor or your boss, and that's how usually you end up. But situation kaa here, I found it usually happens a lot with situations where, let's say, almost every team member na report the CEO, at least one top management. So what usually happens is when you have a scenario where the structure of the startup or the team isn't very clear, even things like how communication needs to be done, roles and responsibilities, role ya HR, yuko rahisi, like she mentioned, it's very important to ukiingia kwa any role ama hata kabla uingie, always trust your instincts, because there are a lot of times when ukianza tu you wouldn't really know exactly what is going on, what you need to do to take care of yourself, what you need to do to think critically about the projects that you're handling. So always trust your instincts, together the data that you're gathering around yourself, and always make a decision. At the end of the day, hata kama utachoka, there's always going to be another job or someone who you can work with to make things happen. So it's not the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's at least it's very encouraging. Thank you. So, what would you tell my friend who was asked if she could go to the gym and bark that she's a nobody? Because it that it really really hits some nerves, honestly.
Try not to take it to heart. Um, there are a lot of people who, let's say, see that you have a very good head above your shoulders. Like when you're smart kabisa, you can tell how things are, you know how to find the solutions. And if they know that you're going to smell the what's going on in that situation, then they'll kind of try to put you down as early as possible. So try not to take it to heart, because at the end of the day, the people who pay most attention to how the product is supposed to work, how they're supposed to get the most value from the people that they hire, hawatajali ati whether you're nobody or whether you're coming from 500 kilometers away. They will always find a way to make it work and make sure that the relationship that they have with you is in top condition, because ukiona mtu mwenye ni very valuable kukupea exactly what you need, huwezi jaribu kuspoil your relationship at all. So if this person is communicating like this from the very beginning, hata utapata job, just cut your losses and leave it alone, and take that experience, think about it, see if there's any other red flags that unaweza gather kutoka hapo, and then move on, try to apply to other different places. By the way, also ka starting point, kama unatafuta internship or apprenticeship or anything, si lazima utafute like a formal job, unaweza kufanya pia with like utafute private clients uanze kubuild portfolio yako with pro bono projects or things like that. It also kind of helps you get the experience of how to work with different people, how different people think, how they communicate. When someone says A, it actually means B. So there is always a different alternative to look at.
Okay. You sound very experienced in this. I want to be you, honestly. And I nimeshinda nikiongelea me, my experiences, my friends. Let's talk about you kidogo. So what inspired you to pursue a career in UI UX design?
Uh, so this is a story that I've given a lot to her.
Tell us.
So initially I was supposed to be a software dev. I studied computer science in uni. Then during my fourth year project, I was building actually two things happened. So I intended to join one of Africa's top tech companies that usually hires people from uni straight and mentors them. I didn't pass the interview. I came close. Then part two is when I was building my final year project and I was looking at it. My supervisor was also looking at it. Then he was like, well, connection is hapa. Like it's not hitting the spot. Like functional wise, yes, inafanya, lakini visual wise, haibambi. So nikafanya a bit of research kuangalia like what to make it better. Came across randomly a design course that will teach things like how to make colors work, color psychology, what colors mean, what fonts mean, how to use language to communicate a certain idea. All the things that will make sure my project that looks very techy and bare bones, some bootstrap framework and things like that, it change from looking all over the place to now looking like something that is intentional and can even be sold in the market. So I took that course for like a month or so. Then while I was taking the course, nilikuwa na compare notes kuangalia. So these examples zimefanywa zinakaa hivi, so how can I implement that on my project and things like that. So eventually it went well mpaka nikapata perfect score on my final year project, surprisingly.
Wow.
So
Ngoja nikupige
that
makofi. This I need to do.
thank you. Yeah. So from there it kind of gave me some validation. Yeah, by the way, hii kitu ina make sense. Hata kama sahi nakaa foreign. So acha nione what else can be done because that was a very very short course, ile ya 1 month. So after that, then nika decide to invest in like a bootcamp. Good thing my parents were there for me. They were able to pay for that bootcamp. That's why I always value them and always appreciate them because without them, I will not be here where I am today. So they decided to listen to my presentation of going to a 1-year bootcamp, a design bootcamp. So for 8 months, it was quite interesting. Going to different places, taking examples of, so what does this sign mean in this context? This is very out of the world here. When we went to TRM, look at a sign of a wheelchair sign or what do you call it, wet floor sign, and what will it mean in the context when users are using the mall, when they're coming off from a supermarket, when they're going to the parking, will this be important for them? Will this not be important for them? So kulikuwa na very many use cases where ilikuwa kufanya you think out of the box and see, by the way, hata kama it's not related to design, it kind of makes sense because of this. So with lots of presentations, there were other students that I was studying with. So eventually I came out having a good understanding of what design looks like. And also at that time, there weren't many like design courses or boot camps or resources online to tell you this is how design can actually work, can actually make products better. So then I realized, by the way, here a huge gap because also at the time, looking back, a lot of businesses who are Congo may invest in devs, people who can build the product and people who can ship the product and sell it like marketers and things like that. But in terms of how the product works for the end customer, unashangamara product na ship lakini watu wanashinda to drop off ama watu hawatumii your product. It's because that it's not matching what people want. So from there now I realize that there's a big gap in terms of how devs are able to implement what they think the customer is saying. Even the business owner, kabla business owner kaa chini afikiria kenye user yake anataka, itakuwa a long stretch if there's no one to say, baby, it's actually a better way of doing this, like how to gather user data through interviews, through analytics, tools, and things like that. So now from there, that's when I realized there is a huge gap. You can decide who on what I can do with my knowledge. Luckily, there was a friend of mine whose friend was running a design agency. So I joined as an intern. From there, nikaanza work na small clients on things like websites and mobile apps. Good thing, since nilikuwa nimetoka fresh out of uni, I had like some knowledge of how to build websites, how the frameworks work, how to code kidogo. So that also helped, because if a client knows that they're paying for a certain budget, then they want to make sure that they're maximizing the value out of the budget, definitely. So since I could code, it will get my foot in the door, and then I could tell them, by the way, this is actually how you need to make your website too, because your customers are thinking this way. So why don't you do it that way? So over time, I realized design is more than just like building a product and taking it to market. It's making sure it satisfies what the customers want to put. And also for the business owners, they also get what they're looking for. They have a better understanding of who their customer is through you. Devs also wanakuwa na an easier time of how to build a product if you're not the one designing and building it. Yeah, so that's more or less how it's been since the beginning until now.
I feel like it's been very thorough for you listening to your story.
Uh-huh.
You're a very sharp designer. Like hiyo tu ndo impression nimepata, imagine. So nimesikia ukiongelea, let me just start with the funny part.
Uh-huh.
Umesema umetengeneza presentation.
Yeah, I had to.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
And then
you pick a place where you need to justify exactly why you're asking for that money to invest in your education beyond university. So that's why I had to do that.
yeah, explainable, but the very thought of natengeneza wazazi wangu present enzi yenyewe ni serious. Nimeona. You mentioned coding. So do you think that it's very beneficial? That's the word I'll use for designers wajue kucode.
Not necessarily. Well, I would have given a different answer 2 years ago. So this is why. Knowing what I know, coding helped me get my foot in the door in working in tech, especially in design, because I could understand how things are built and now work backwards to see how I could adjust design to make things easier when they're being coded. But right now, I think it's more important for designers to know how developers work. That's more important, because I'm telling you right now, if you are starting your tech career, alafu unaenda kuangalia what should I learn right now, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React Native, Golang, Python, R, hutaimaliza. You're going to turn 50 by the time unamaliza all of these technologies, na market yako imechange by then.
Yeah, true.
So,
Very true.
so it's much more effective to be familiar with how devs think and how they work. So, for example, like you're freelance, obviously, as a designer, your career is going to be very different when you're working freelance versus when you're working corporate. So, if you're freelance, definitely you need to learn a bit of everything. You don't need to go in depth, but just know enough to make sure that you're going in the right direction, or to make sure that you know who to ask questions when you need more information. So right now, it's more important for designers to know how devs work, especially what's more important to them. So number one, if you're using a tool like Figma or XD, I'm not sure that people use XD these days, but Figma is topic. XD or Framer or Miro or the other ones, can devs use it? Can devs understand the content or the ideas that you're putting on these design tools? Can they understand it and have the information they need to translate it into a working product? So that's in terms of like design to product translation. If you're looking at how you're going to collaborate with the devs, that's also another thing, because you always want to make sure that the devs feel kama kuna swali wanaweza kuja kwako kuuliza. If they have something that they feel is not clear ama needs to be changed, especially because of like kama inaweza tengenezwa in code, they need to be able to come to you and explain to you why, and you can see where they're coming from and now adjust to what they are you're saying. Because at the end of the day, you can't do everything as a designer. Huwezi market, huwezi code, huwezi fanya kila kitu. But you need to learn how to make sure, you need to learn how to talk to the people who you're working with, who are using your designs. So that's devs who are building it, sales who need to understand the product and be able to prepare like the campaigns. I know I'm going too far. Business owners who need to see the value in what you're designing for them. Because at the end of the day, that's what is most important. So si lazima ujue code sahi, but just know how to work with the devs. And also, side note, know how to use AI tools that are around you at this moment. So minimum ChatGPT, because that is going to save you in a lot of situations if you decide to go freelance, especially things like when a client calls you and they ask why this is not working and the dev is not around, you need to be able to figure out how to solve the situation. Yeah. So you don't really know how to code really, but you just need to know exactly what is going on around you in the industry and in the environment.
Freelance looks scary, but it's worth a try, I guess. Honestly. So nikuulize, unaweza jiambia, what would you tell your younger self trying to build a career?
Yeah, always stay curious. There are many times when I felt like I was taking on too much, especially early on when I was starting out in my internship, and now when I moved to a designer role, still in that agency. There were times when I felt overwhelmed, like I'm doing too much. I'm doing everything. I'm building the website. I'm designing it. I'm talking to the client. I'm managing the project. I'm setting things like timelines. Budget pekee ndo sikuwa nashika. But at the end of the day, I appreciate everything that I did and I learned during that period because ilinifunza kujitetea. I wouldn't lie. Ilinifunza kujitetea, kusoma client, kushika where they're coming from. So that's number one, always being curious. And also number two, just stay flexible. There were so many times when I would assume that the way I'm thinking is the same way the client is thinking. So for example, there's a client that nilimjengea an e-commerce shop, and at the time it was pretty fun. Nilikuwa naenda kwa her shop with a few team members because in addition to building the shop, ilikuwa tuna upload catalog, make sure kile kitu iko sawa, payment system iko integrated vizuri, emails are going through. Then one day, someone comes in the shop and buys items that are on the online shop ananua offline kwa hiyo duka, and then they went out of stock the moment that customer can nunua in the shop. So what happens? I don't know. And the items are still online on the shop. So you know what happened the next few minutes? Someone else bought online in the shop, on the online shop. So you have like two products. A customer has bought offline 2 of them, and a customer has bought online 2 of them. Na kuna mtu amesema. So it reached a point where I remember I asked the client, maybe I think it will be good for us to when things are over online, tuziweke out of stock. The client akasema no, take it out. So at that moment unajua the client pia kuna pressure because anajaribu kuresolve the situation because kuna watu wawili wamenunua the same thing na kuna ingine iko in stock. So I was like, but you sure, at this time I think it would be better for people to see like what's already here so they can anticipate kama ikirudi they can come back and buy it. The client alikuwa na pressure. So they're like, no, I want to take them off right now.
Wow.
So at that point, unajua nimepiga kelele kwa shop and I'm not really understanding what is going on because there were so many people in the shop. We were supposed to launch the store the next day, making sure catalog iko sawa, nini. So just like, okay. Of course, nimejump kidogo, but I took them off. So later on, when I'm going home, that's when I realized, by the way, the reason why client alisema zitolewe, see, hata kama my argument kind of makes sense, at that point, they were thinking about the clients who I'm serving are my personal friends. Ukani kitu iko online na kuna mtu amenunua online na hata ipata sababu mtu mwingine offline ashazibeba, atasikia vibaya alafu aambie marafiki zake alafu atumie watu link. So heri hiyo product tu itolewe kutoka online ikae tu offline until new stock comes in. So hapo ndo sasa nikarealize, by the way, si kila mtu fikiria kama wewe. Yeah.
I feel like To me, the fact that uli manage kujua that he's not even mad at you, he's just under so much pressure is such a valuable, how do I say this? It's such a valuable quality. The fact that ulimwelewa ukaamua ni sawa, let me put my feelings aside, let me listen to him, acha nifanye venye amesema, ako na reason zake. That's brilliant. I don't feel like many of us designers would have had the strength to. Na unajua venye designers si huwa na ego, natuambia aje,
Yeah.
kwani mi ndo na design ama wewe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I have learned as much as when it stay flexible, nimeona patience hapo and understanding.
Patience lazima.
Were there any specific, oh yeah, tumeongelea your specific educational and training backgrounds? Kuna zingine though?
For now, no, not really. I think you depend on kama unataka kwenda, like I said, to whether unataka kwenda freelance, whether unataka kwenda corporate, and now kama unataka kwenda freelance, what industry you want to go into. So for example, kama ni fintech, kama unataka kuingia fintech na you are starting out as a designer, then kujua how fintech works, the different platforms. Sitaingilia hapo because I'm not a fintech designer yet.
Yet. Underline yet.
Yeah.
Umeongelea finding your niche, right? Someone once said, ama niliona mahali, unajua most of this ni opinions za watu, na sisi budding designers, all you can do is like follow the wave because we're not quite sure what to do. But someone said whether you're doing corporate or freelance, just find your niche and excel in it, then utapata maybe job in that particular niche. So maybe if I start doing rentals right now, so nifanye app ya rentals and create case study. So nianze tu kubase around rentals. I might get, okay, mbona nazita rentals, property, rental property, hizo vitu. Do you believe that now this is particularly for the corporate?
Well, definitely you depend. Let me just be real right now. Right now the job market is quite flexible. So unaweza jipata you really wanted to stay in property, alafu unapata an opportunity somewhere else in a different industry. Or let's say you get into property unakaa 6 months, then unasema I don't think this is for me. Depending on how how do you call it? The market goes for that industry. Unaweza pata it's going to drop because of some tech advancements kama ChatGPT and AI and things like that, or it's going to rise. So always keep your options open. That's the best thing that you can do. Like don't niche down so much mpaka unaji-exclude from different projects you will have loved to work in. So kabla hata niche down to e-commerce, I've done projects on NGOs, real estate, a lot of things. Yeah. So always be open to the possibilities. Then later on you can niche down once you see what you want.
Sawa. And based on that, Badu, how important is personal branding and self-promotion in this industry? Because everyone sings, brand yourself, your portfolio should show who you are. Now, some of us don't even know what that means. Because me, nakumbuka nimeulizwa, when I look at your portfolio, what do you want me to see? And do you know what I told them? I told them, you will see what I want you to see. Because I've been learning so much psychology in design. Right now, I will manipulate what I want you to see, you will see. If I want you to think.
Personal branding is very, very important. I cannot lie. Where I have seen things. The moment you get your portfolio out, that is when things start working. So actually, personal branding goes two ways. That's what I've realized. And my experience may be different from what other creatives in the industry have experienced, like photographers or well, that's one that comes to mind. So, but if you're a designer, you always have to make sure that people know, number one, who you are, or at least what you do, and number two, that you can deliver results. As a designer, something that I've learned is it's based a lot on people can see your face or see the places that you've worked in or see the projects that you've worked on and the results that you've delivered, then they're more likely to approach you and say, hi, we actually have this project that we're working on. Can we do something together on it? So utapata a lot. It's also because designers only half of the work is technical. The rest of the work is negotiation, lobbying, and see whether people are seeing what we're talking about, whether they're able to understand, whether we're able to convince people that this is actually the right way to go with this design, or at least when how the product is supposed to work. So it's based a lot on trust. And there are very specific things that people usually look at. Number one, if they can see how you look. So that's why having something like a professional photo shoot of yourself, professional, is super important, because first impressions matter. That's how people tell what your style is also. Also showcase like the companies or the clients you've worked with. If that's not possible, like if you're just starting out, then number three, showing like the projects that you've worked on, any results that you came to, or even if you didn't really go to market, for example, or if it was a private project, then showing your thought process on it. Because you need to show people who you are, how you work, and what your goals are and what your vision is, even before they talk to you. So that's why things like making sure that your LinkedIn is on point is usually the first thing to do. That's very low investment. Then number two, having a personal website. I know it may be tricky for some people, especially because you're wondering, how do I even get started with this if I'm not a dev? So looking at different platforms can help you build like your personal website. It helps you showcase like what you've worked on, what your ideals are, so that people know who you are before they even talk to you. Then number three, always be ready to talk to new people, because that's actually how you get new projects, new plugs, how clients can feel comfortable with working with you. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe someone who you talked to last year is going to come to you and say, by the way, I just remembered I have this project, so can we work on it together? So yeah, personal branding online and offline is very, very, very important. But at the end of the day, if you have a certain image that you want to project, make sure that it's something that you can actually achieve right now. Usijimalize kupotea certain image like when influencer with 1 million followers, like you're just letting out. Just do what you can right now and build it up as you go.
Umechange mind yangu. Now I'm really thinking about it. Juu kwanza umesema
Penny, what are you
picha.
thinking?
Sasa
But
like it's very exhausting. About just try remembering time haukuwa na portfolio and you keep thinking that, oh my god, I need a
yeah,
portfolio. How long did it even take you to get one now?
yeah.
Yeah, it's exhausting. But it's worth it, right?
I know.
According to Chinese it is worth
Yes,
it. That's my
yes,
next project.
very.
Getting my branding.
Mhm.
Juu, by the way, wasi wengi uniuliza juu ya portfolio yangu and I keep skipping that question. It should stop. I have so many questions. I really think we should do a part two because honestly, at Maliva zote sai. Because I want to ask you about role of mentorship or how we should take mentorship in or how to like curate your LinkedIn to look professional, sparkly, uitiwe tu job, unaona?
Mhm.
Or how to like present
Mhm.
yourself in your resume or how to like do your case study. So kindly, will you have a part two sometime?
Yes, I will, Chantel.
Thank you. Okay, so before we go to the next segment, I just want to get your thoughts
Mhm.
on the future of design.
Would you like me to speak like generally, Ama? You have like specific questions around it?
Right now,
Yeah.
tunaambiwa
Mhm.
unajua wengine wetu ndo tumeingia juzi and then tunaingia tunaona post stroke articles zinasema design is dead, design is dying, design is gone. So it's you tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, I won't lie. There are a lot of articles like that are floating around. Um, some of them have some truth to it, depending on the industry and also the market, regional market. Because it may be true to, let's say, the US, but it's not true to Kenya because different markets are evolving differently um, in terms of digital adoption. But at the end of the day, there's certain things that I've noticed keep coming up. So number one, what sets designers apart in terms of how you can get ahead or how you can make sure your future is future proof? Number one, knowing how to use AI tools, because these are never going to go away. They're here to stay. If you see the ChatGPT is creating ways to design photos uh, out of nowhere, design banners, creating documents, shortlisting, summarizing PDFs. Squeeze it looks like ChatGPT has done anything. And that's just one of a sea of AI tools. It's very important to be able to know how do I use these AI tools to make my work better and to make my clients or my teammates work better. How can I also make it work for the customer? For example, aside from AI, things like personalization is coming up. When let's say unajenga a product for an e-commerce customer, then how do you provide recommendations for that customer based on kenye wamekuwa wakinunua in the past, because that's how you make customers feel like you're listening to them, like you knew, since amenunua peanut butter leo, maybe I should recommend to them like bread tomorrow, because I know peanut butter usually goes well with this product, and based on how they've been browsing the website, I know this is something that they're always going to buy. Also things like voice. I've noticed some apps, whether it's web or mobile, that are using voice. Unaona venye watu wa iPhone kutumia Hey Siri siku hizi, ama watu wa
Yeah.
Samsung.
Alexa.
Oh, yes, exactly. It's also not going away, because at the end of the day, when you are multitasking, you want something that can give you results, na voice iweza kufanyia hivyo. So kama unapika, kama unaondosha, kama unakimbia, anything. So designing for platforms that can use voice to help customers interact with that product is always something that we can look at. It may not be something that we take off right now, like much, but it's not going to go away. So being able to know how to design for voice. And that aside, other trends like AR, like augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, it's also nice to look at this. Of course, it may not be easy to get into it as a designer, because it's also kind of hardware resource heavy. You need to have a good machine to help you render like the items you want to render as a 3D designer or AR or VR designer. But it's usually very important to just know what exactly is going on. So at the end of the day, the time that you feel it's time for me to pivot from this industry and learn something new or try a different set of clients, you also have the skill set and the know how to do so. So yeah, I think that's more or less where I'm seeing the design industry is going to. It's not going to be just design in a silo. It's going to be design plus AI, design plus VR, design plus voice. It's always going to be like that. So always be open to learning.
Okay. So umesema like tukue tu open minded. Like there's better.
Yes,
It's not like dying really. It's just shifting, right?
yes.
Okay. Sawa. I have 5 questions for you. Just 5. And unazijibu haraka. Sawa.
Okay, I'll
Aya.
try.
Like don't think about it sana.
Okay.
Okay. So number 1, your biggest fear as a designer.
Let me say FOMO. Not knowing what's
FOMO.
going on.
Yes. Yeah. One thing you'll change about the design industry.
How to make sure designers are included in product processes.
What
So
is your biggest design
yeah,
failure?
being closed-minded and also having fear, because that can close a lot of doors.
One thing you wish you could design that does not exist yet.
Oh, that is tough. One thing that I can design that doesn't exist yet. A platform that can deliver goods I buy anywhere that I am. I don't even have to put a delivery address because I move around a lot.
Last but not least, your design philosophy.
Think about how to make things easy for other people.
Before we finish, give us some advice for us aspiring designers.
Well, I think I'll give one that applies to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So always stay open-minded. You never know what's going to come through your way, and don't give up, because the design field is changing. It's changing from just design to design plus something else, and that can look a bit shaky. Always keep a lookout for what you can do, what you need to learn, because at the end of the day, that's always going to keep you afloat, and you won't ever feel like you're in danger of, let's say, losing a job. It's going to help you always see like what you can do next, even if it's leaving design and moving into another business, because having this knowledge is never going to go away. It's always going to help you at some point. Yeah. So always being open minded and just be courageous the whole way. I know it's tough as a starting designer, but you'll get there eventually.
We will get there.
I've
I
been there.
believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. So, uh, so far, before we like part short,
Mm.
the most important things I've gotten, those ziko mingi, but the most
Mhm.
important things I've gotten is we need to like stay flexible and stay curious always. And then we also need to learn how to like work with developers. But trust me, you've said a lot.
Mhm.
Ni kama nianze kuandika kitabu sai. But thank you so much for coming, Stephanie. Thank you for taking your time. It's very hard. Sai watu wanatafuta pesa na ekonomi yetu mbaya. Thank you so much.
No, I'm glad I could help, even if it was for a short time. So looking forward to the next one.
Well, you're unakuja part 2, so
Yes.
do you have any shout outs or any book recommendations? Any
Uh,
movie recommendations, song recommendations?
I think for book is just one. There's
Mm-hmm.
one called Business Thinking for Designers. So it just shows how designers can change from thinking as in just design, also thinking about how other people think, especially when the same business or the team. So it's somewhere on the Envision website. So Business Thinking for Designers, that's the best one. For movies, I don't know. That's something that I need to look at and tell you next time.
So. No worries.
For shout out, yes, there are two people who I want to mention who have been pivotal in my design career. So number one, there's a fellow designer called Michael Utete. I worked with him from the first time I joined the design industry in that first agency. He mentored me from the very beginning, showed me the ropes of using the tools, talking with clients, managing projects, all the way until we both left the agency at different times later on. And he's been superb in terms of not patient learning. He's very patient. He's a very patient design teacher. And number two, there's another one called Bradley Shugi. He's not a designer, but he has always been someone who is super optimistic. When earlier on in my design career, things didn't really look like they were panning out because things kept on changing and I was moving from industry to industry. He's the one person who was always there to give encouragement and always offered an outside perspective since he wasn't a designer. He's more or less a business person, so he could tell this is actually what's going on, even if you're seeing things a certain kind of way. Yeah, so those are the two people who I would shout out to. They have really helped, and I'm still friends with them until today. So yeah, if you would like to check them out, the first place to go will be their LinkedIn, and then connect with them from there.
So thank you so much, Steph. It's been a pleasure having you. Till next time.
Thank you, Chantel.
Bye. It's a wrap for today's episode of Kenyan Design Conversations. Asanteni sana kwa kutusikiza and joining us on this journey of learning and growing as designers. We sincerely hope ulijinais na show and found it valuable. If you did, tafadhali bonyeza that share button, distribute it to your friends, family, colleagues when you benefit from this too. Also, usisahau kusubscribe, follow na kuturate on your favorite podcast platform. Tunajua designers thrive on feedback and we would really love to hear your feedback, questions and suggestions. Tunapatikana LinkedIn. Kwa sahi, just DM me. I will leave you my profile at the description. Once again, tunashukuru and we cannot wait to see you in the next episode. Until then, stay creative, stay curious and stay awesome. Bye.